so many questions.
And they're all very rude.
No, they aren't rude at all.
Sister, tell them to, ask them to.
They aren't rude at all, but a lot of areas where you're known. So I thought the best thing to do.
Why is it MirandaNet?
It's the daughter of Prospero in The Tempest, who said, "Oh, brave new world that has such people in IT." He would have said it, Shakespeare, he just didn't have a computer.
Oh dear, it's all one can say is that hideous pun. It's like a dreadful Flann O'Brien thing, you know.
There is a bit of humour in it, I have to say. But what I've done, actually, I've distilled the questions into two, because we know that you're very good at saying what you want to say. So the first one was about why you're investing globally in mobile technologies. You know, the whole disadvantage bit. How do you think it helps?
Well, the first thing is I'm specifically interested in ideas, the culture of ideas, if that doesn't sound too grand. And as a result, I like being around, inevitably, younger people who not just live in the contemporary world, which sometimes you flounder in as you get older. You're not sure how new adaptive technologies actually adapt to yourself. But when you're around people who are, I mean, the question I asked coming up the stairs is with regard to the company that I'm involved with, a group called, you know, what new technologies are we delivering? That's always the thing that interests me. And my colleague there told me, and I just said, he says, have you heard about this? And I said, yeah. He said, well, this is what happens. And you kind of go, great. And then I wander off into reverie and the implications of this and what it means. And the implications of the technological world have yet to be realized. I mean, I find technology dull. The idea, fantastic, but the actual realization, people go, hey, have you seen the new 20G phone? Like it does, shut up, you know? And yeah, it's amazing, like, you know, we're in contact all the time. Whatever, you know, I don't want to be, but I mean, the implications of that are very profound. Like, you know, I was talking the other day at the World Education Forum that it implies a hive society where we touch antlers all the time, except they're wireless. And in the less developed part of the world, it does bring them up, if you've got access to this stuff, to a level of equality that could never have happened before. And it gives you access to a world, and that wasn't available. And it sort of levels instantly the playing field, which I find fascinating. What happens then? But as for moving a mouse around or a browser and then going there, and then you click on that, Bob, you see, and that downloads, and you say yes to that, and you go,
I'm absolutely,
get on with it,
I'm absolutely in your camp. But
that's an age thing.
Oh, I don't know. I think there's some young people who struggle.
I'm not sure it doesn't slow up the mental process, because it grinds to, whereas you make a conceptual leap constantly in your mind from that to that, and you speak it or enact upon it. By definition, working with technology today, you actually slow that down and go from there to there to there to there. Now I can observe in my own kids that it's almost this part of their brain working while the other part makes the leap. But at the same time, this to this to this to this, wait, pace, cut, pace, is so slow. Sometimes, I mean, I've no patience anyway, so that's the downside of it. But what it means, what all of this means, is, you know, deeply exciting to me. I mean, you know, Brave New World doesn't really interest me, because whatever's new will be interesting. And, you know, as I said the other day, it's an amazing time to be living through this period. It will be discussed in 300 years for lots of reasons. The dawn of the technological age implies whole new other ways of functioning. You can see it already. The collapse of the world economy is a function of technology. Globalization is a function of technology. The shift of capital and labor, and therefore power and economy to the east, happened like that. The rise of new countries happens like that. And we're confused as a result. I mean, nearly every society is deeply confused about the moment they're in. Out of that comes whole new ideas, and I love that.
One of the areas that we are digging into and really interested in is where there is more impact on collaborative knowledge building, and that's an area where we specialise. And one of the things...
Well, you know, my whiz-bang high-tech smartphone has just gone off.
Yeah.
I've received my black and white text. My cards are in.
Yeah. Have you got to go?
But
You've got a few more minutes.
No, collaborative stuff. Exactly, that's what I mean by that hive society. By definition, I don't think you'll even think of it as collaborative. It'll be this singular... It's the same way you watch swallows do that dance in the sky. It's the same way you watch the individual ant being, you know, going back to Room 19, you know, Stalin's dreadful comment about, you know, one is a tragedy, the death of one person is a tragedy, the rest is a statistic. I think that's reversed. I think the statistic now becomes one. I think you'll have entire societies or groups of people collaboratively arriving very quickly at conclusions and solutions, and you know, knowledge of itself, of other things will increase exponentially rather than organically a slow build-up. That could be good or bad, but certainly interesting.
Well, what we're trying to do for good is to get teachers to collaborate on their practice so that we've got more evidence to impact on policy.
I was involved in something like that. I mean, I've got a couple of TV production companies, and I don't know if anyone here remembers Teachers TV.
Oh, yes,
okay,
yes,
well,
we thought very highly of it.
That was our thing.
Yeah,
and of course, come the crash, I mean, it was inevitable with cuts that would be the first thing to go, fair enough. But what disappointed me was that none of the foundations or the schools themselves, because it was very cheap to do.
Oh yeah.
And I saw a teacher watching it on their device. They downloaded it and at the bus stop and were catching up on some other teacher talking about their best practice and that. And I really thought it was useful. I mean, we did get in stars to do lectures on various aspects, but you know, loads of countries became interested in this, particularly the Middle East, China became, you know, how do we do this? And I think somebody set up a Teachers TV in China. But, you know, maybe it's old hat, maybe it was online, but I absolutely believe what you're saying is correct, you know, teachers learning from each other,
and having more impact like doctors do.
Yeah.
You know, by having the evidence, we're setting something up to do that.
I'd love to do Teachers TV again. I mean, if there's any one of those foundations that invest in education, that'd be the way to go.
I know some of our members were involved in collecting all the stuff together and making sure that it's all available.
Yeah, well,
so,
you see,
you know, there's been a lot of that.
All the stuff is there still. It's available, I think, for free. I think, but it's already dated.
Yes.
You know, and also, you know, best practice kind of only works in certain circumstances. If you're in a sink estate, your best practice in Kensington and Chelsea is not going to work. But you know, you were able to talk about those, and all those people who worked in the lower end of the economic scale could talk to each other about that and then others could contribute and find out their problems. I really was fascinated by it. It's a shame it's gone.
Yeah, I think there's other ways that we're trying to recreate that kind of thing at the moment, and there is a bit of a problem with video, as you say, getting out of date. What do you think is the potential for digital technologies in our schools? What should we be doing? Where should we be going?
Well, I think it's going to be. I assumed it was a commonplace by now. Certainly, I've only got one left in school, but all the homework is to do with, you know, using online. Then you get the death of certain things. Like, I mean, there's quite a few studies now that if you read a book, if you download it on a Kindle or something, you absorb 20% less than if you physically read it. Yeah. And then there must be something about. I'm an inveterate note-taker of books and underliner. I mean, it's pointless reading one of my books. The entire thing is underscored and I forget everything. But if you do write something down, it's almost like you're writing across the frontal cortex of your brain. And I went to the nuns when I was 4, and they were Frebel nuns. Is that a thing now? It's like Montessori with the Frebel method.
Yes.
And I've got a vivid memory of pale blue little cardboard sheets, and the letters were in sandpaper, and we had to close our eyes and go and so thinking about that, the letter became a physical felt thing. So when somebody says a word to me, my spelling's really good, I can hear it, and it's literally physical. I think that's sort of gone. The physicality of learning must be important to the human brain. It must be. Otherwise, maybe a lot of the learning itself becomes virtual. It's literally an exercise. We used to call our homework exercises. And it goes towards your modular scores. I'm not sure that you retain as much, if that's necessary or not, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not one to speak. The only thing I actually got out of my schooling was poetry, which has stood me excellently, and increasingly as you get older, those things come back to you. And that was because in my life, suddenly these men and women articulated for me things I couldn't possibly say when I was a kid, and the sense of what was happening was in those poems, and they stayed with me. But that was all I got. But that was learning by rote. I wander lonely as a cloud that floats on high over bending hill. Shut up! Massacring this beauty, you know. It must be. I had 3 teachers in a row who could read, 2 priests and a lay teacher, and you could see them. This was the one moment where they could escape these 30 dreadful little slots who didn't care less. But and when they read Paradise Lost, I was like, it was the same week as A Whiter Shade of Pale came out by Procol. I was confused by the two, and you know, I thought Paradise Lost was so brilliant, just mesmeric, just in the same way as that song was. You know, I hadn't a clue what was going on, but I got it. And will you get it now by learning? You know, I think they're learning. I mean, the poetry my one school is fucking awful, you know. And I had a row with the teacher about it. You know, I said it's crap. I know poetry, you know, and it's all that. Well, do you not think? No, I don't think it's shite. Go back and teach them something of lasting virtue, you know.
You're answering another question that came out here, which is what would you retain from your own education?
I didn't get it. I did crap, you know. I mean, I never passed an exam in my life, unfortunately. I say unfortunately now, then I didn't care. And I got lucky in my life, so that's it really. But not a single exam, not winter, not Christmas, not Easter, not summer, not O-level, not 11 plus, not A-level, nothing. And I don't regret it because things turned out okay, but for many years they weren't. So I didn't retain anything. What I retained from my education was a way to negotiate authority but still be a pain in the arse.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's the first thing we should be teaching. But I think what you're saying is very interesting. We're looking into how learning actually happens in the brain, and you would be typical. You'll forgive me calling you a genius, but it's in here. Somebody said
absolutely.
It. Somebody said it. Somebody said it. Yeah.
I am a genius. Yeah.
Yeah. But we're really interested in whether technologies can help the type of child that you were, and there's lots of them and lots of people.
It wouldn't have helped me. I mean, Stuart there from Group Call. I mean, I'm literally in the recording studio. Musicians are very technically adept in that they will buy the first off the line, whatever a new thing is, they'll rip it open and they plug it in and go blah, 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 and that makes a noise. Oh, I can use that just because it's a different noise. And it's very childlike and very intuitive, which nearly all machines are. And they'll use that, and then once it becomes commonplace, they discard it. I mean, how many studios do you see all the early synthesizers backed up? I can't do it at all. I mean, really, I get so impatient with it, and I can't understand what's happening in machine. I've got a big Mac, and I've got a laptop, and the missus has an iPad and stuff, and you know, all that stuff, and it's a pain for me, really, a lot of it. So simple things where we lose out by it. In education, I think it's got many pluses, and just as things we would have learned in the past, like a Victorian education where everyone was taught how to draw and do watercolours, and they seem to be brilliant. You see them, you know, every Victorian seemed to play piano and do watercolour. Well, how did they manage that, you know? But we don't do that anymore. Is that a loss? Yes, it is a loss, but were there upsides? Completely. The problem is focusing on education towards an economic end. Education must go back to that, the Greek or Jesuitical or Roman values of the rounded individual. You can't, unless schools produce human beings with a value to society, you will not get the economic end you require. And you know, given that our economies must go to the higher levels of R&D, that's our only future. They can make everything cheaper and better over there. We have to go up. So the focus is maths and science. Forget it for my lot, forget it for me, forget it for their mother. We just couldn't do that, ever, none of us. So human values, which society, you kind of pick up in school. Girls understand how to negotiate, boys, girls. Being Catholic Ireland, I went to a boys' school, to a girls' school. You know, it was only much later, when I sort of got to know girls, I understood they were all completely mad. I should have been told that when they were 13, you know. But then, you know, all those sort of things, it must be the primary thing that you turn out a society that functions, that people know how, understand and work together. Then you get the economic benefits. The good economy is a product of the good society, and one can't work without the other.
You've stopped at the perfect point because your car is waiting. Thank you very much indeed for spending time with us. And you have been recorded, and we will be dissecting what you said.
It's hardly worth it, but thank you.
I'd hardly needed to interview the guy.
That's one question.
That's good. You managed to get one question. He's very interested.
Yep. See if the freedom, I need it myself.
Yes, well, you can go around.